like, I don't know. I find it hard pressed that like the demons would be like, Isabella, everybody makes mistakes. Just, make sure like you're making sure the gates are tighter. You got more locks, and I'll see you tomorrow for work. It's like they're like, no, you let
AoA, that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah. Open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AoA, check me out. Look, clocked in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it, my wife.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages? Welcome back to the AoA show. I'm your host, as always, Ian, along with the boys Isaiah
Ohio
and Gavin.
What is Gucci shoes?
And today we are here to talk about The Promised Neverland, Season 2, Episode 3, and our thoughts on it. If you didn't check out our live reaction yet, I highly recommend you do so. Where can you do that, you might ask? On our reaction channel. It's called AoA Reacts. The link is in the description down below. That way you can get a little context before you jump into the discussion here. So, just jumping right into it, actually. I am scared. I am tense. I am nervous. And I feel like there's just been a bunch of helium being pumped into a balloon right now over the course of the last 2 episodes, and it's eventually going to pop. We let out some of the helium with the realization that Sunju isn't all nice and Santa Clausy, and we also realized that the house that they're in is not so inviting as one might think. And I find myself weirdly beating myself up because I feel, when I look back on it, it's really messed up to say this, but I actually feel more alleviated when I find out a bad thing, if that makes sense, right? Like when I found out Sunju was like kind of shady, and when I found out those things at the end, like it hits you with that initial, oh no, but I'm also like, I like breathe this weird sigh of relief because I know that something bad has to happen, right? Inevitably has to. So once I find out what that bad thing is, I think to myself, I'm like, okay, is this something that we could overcome? Or maybe it's not as bad as I thought. And it's like a really weird way of looking at it, but like this is what the show has done to me personally. So this has just been the story of it for the past 2 episodes, and like I said, this one was really not much different, but we got a little bit of helium let out of the balloon. We see some of the danger that is let ahead, and but it's inevitable before that balloon pops. So I don't know if anything stuck out to you guys that you want to talk about in particular during this episode. I have a couple things myself, but I figure I'll open the floor to you guys. What do you got?
I just have questions. I mean, that's nothing normal, but like, they find this bunker that Minerva used or knew about. So it's like, why? Like, what did he use this for? Did he make the bunker? Did, are there other people? Like, does he have a small alliance or group or crew of people that like, puts it like, I don't know. And then like, did they use that to maybe like, that was a thing that like demons used to like interrogate people, escapees before, and like Minerva and maybe company, maybe not, overtook it and like are now they're reusing it because it had the surveillance cameras. So that made me think like, oh, maybe there's like demon guards, like a watch party like meant to like scope out escapees, and so then they overtook it and are using it as like a a hideout and watching out for demons. But then like my thing is like, okay, but like what's the point though? Because then you're just kind of stuck in that hideout, like you're not like nothing's happening. So I don't know. I weirdly do feel that like Sunju's obviously shady, but I actually still feel like he's not really going to be a problem. Like he's not going to be one of the main problems for the kids, because I feel like by the time he's confronted with them again and he's given the choice to either eat one of them or eat another human, like he's not actually going to do it, because he'll be like over he'll be overturned. You know what I mean? Like by the kids or by Emma or I forget her. I'm forgetting her name. Majuka.
Yeah.
Because she, still was 100% not in that camp. She was like, "Oh, you want to eat humans?" And he was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Ew, okay." Like it seemed like that's putting them at odds. So I actually wonder if that's going to be conflict between them, and if anything, like I said, I don't know. I don't know. I still don't feel like Sunju's going to be like a big bad or like a real like threat to them, but maybe there's going to be some conflict between Sunju and Majuka about like how to go about being demons. And
I love how upfront he was about it.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
like, "You want any humans?" He's like, Yeah.
There's really like no reason
just
like
kidding.
for him to lie to her because they're
Yeah,
both
it's just-
demons. So
it's
it's not
just
like
funny. I
this is
was
a
like,
demon
oh.
like run world. It's not like they could get in trouble for saying it.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. It was hilarious. Gavin, what are you thinking?
So it's interesting because he's definitely not like he made it clear he's not going to eat them specifically because their religion is against eating kids who have been farmed in this way, and that's why he wants them to eventually have kids because the natural born next generation, in a sense, if you want to call it that, he will be able to eat under that loophole through his religion. So if anything, I feel like he's going to play a more integral role in possibly clearing the way for them in terms of keeping pursuers off of them so they can eventually escape to form his future dream. So if anything, I feel like he is going to be almost a catalyst or almost like an undercover like back agent who's kind of like, you don't see him, but behind the curtains, he's going to be doing integral stuff that benefits these kids in a certain way. And then with that, it's going to allow us to see flashbacks back. It doesn't make his character irrelevant if he plays that role, because it would be very jarring if all of a sudden they just shoot back to him and whatever her name is, Majuko or whatever.
I'm calling her M because I don't know if that's right at all.
I know it definitely starts with an M.
Yeah,
I
it
remember
definitely
it's
starts with an M.
M-U-J-K-A.
Yeah. I just don't know if we
sounds right.
in
Yeah,
order.
looks right.
Yeah. But regardless, you can't just flash back to him now after their leave unless they're playing an important role in this story, which is kind of foreshadowed by as soon as they leave, they flash to him killing the other pursuers that are targeting the kids. And for me, that kind of puts the plot points that this is going to be their role in terms of keeping pursuers off of them and, trying to do their best at it. And they're not going to get as much screen time, but I feel like that is going to be the cue in to be like, here is how they are doing on the flip side of the coin. And then here are the kids in this now messed up situation. But with that, I actually really like what they're doing with this season. And I know a lot of people don't. And for the reasons that I'm going to display forward is, at first I was off put because of what we know traditionally from the first season and how they built suspense by so many crazy things happening scene by scene. And it's crazy because I know what they're doing, or you never know what they're doing with the show, but it's crazy how this show, for me, I like it because my expectations going into the next episode of the first season, I never knew it was going to happen because you just didn't know what was going to happen. And now with starting a new season, I feel like their mindset is, well, people are expecting us to come back and be similar to the first season. However, since we never want people to know our expectations, we are going to go the exact opposite route and really flesh out things that are happening behind the scenes and really building up to that point, but also adding little tidbits that would naturally put that suspense back into the viewer so it doesn't drain them out longevity-wise for the show. Because I know some people, like I was talking to my one friend who watched the second episode, and like you guys have said, it was more boring, more relaxed. I didn't get that feeling, but it's like that they're building something up, and they're doing it on purpose, and it's like, for me, it's just going to lead to a greater explosion. And with that, they're still tagging me along because I watched that episode. I was about to have a stroke. Like, I just can't handle it because you just don't know when they're going to release it, and that's the point where they're just going to keep on holding it. And it's not going to be for a ridiculous amount of time, but I can't wait. And the way that they're just like slowly creeping into it, it's making it more enjoyable for my sake. So people may not share that same opinion, but I love it. I appreciate it. And I cannot wait for next week already. So I will pass the baton.
No, absolutely. So yeah, there were two things that one was a key standout thing for me, and the other was, I have questions. What else is new? For me, the two standout things though would be Sanju in general, and I find it interesting that in his religion, he is finding loopholes in order to try and circumvent his desire to eat humans, but he is pulled away from that code, which I find interesting because obviously that throws a lot of parallels to certain people. Not that everyone does that, but I once again will just reiterate what I said earlier, that I don't know if they're going to go in on their religion or if their religion is going to play some sort of bigger role within the confines of this story. But if it does, or rather, even if it's like not fully that, I am just really curious to know like what the deal is with that. And if this is something that, like how it affects their entire culture and society as the demons, individually. I also am just getting, so the second thing and more so pertaining to this episode in general, was the fact that we have these underground passages and the fact that there is help carved in whatever on the walls there. That's scary. Who's William Minerva? I'm starting to think he's that dude from the OP that has that menacing smile. I'm getting scared. I don't know what's going on, and I'm wondering what the deal is, right? Like, why go through the trouble, the effort to get these kids to escape? Not that was the sole reason. I mean, they made their own choices there, but to get them to this place of protection with a roof over their head, quite literally. For what? Like, what is the motive here? And relating it back to Sanju, I found it interesting, especially, what Gavin was saying, which I agree, that I think that, and Isaiah said it too, that I think that their role, I don't think they're necessarily going to be the number one antagonist right now, just because of the goals that have been stated. If anything, this is a long-term, this is like down the road kind of problem. This is a problem for future Emma, right? If we make it that long. But I am curious to know about that, why he sent, if what he knows, if he knows anything about that place, the fact that what happened there before, were they locking kids up there? Is this William Minerva character someone who also has their own intentions? Again, because like I said, Sanju has his own things, right? Like, a lot of people are helping, but it seems like they have very ulterior and selfish motives. So I'm curious to know what William Minerva's are, right? Because you figure, you're like, unless there's some grand scheme thing, the more I look at it, I'm like, it just seems like he's going through hell and high water, or these kids or whatever, to get them in that position. And it's like, why does it have to be these kids specifically? I mean, obviously they're very intelligent and all that kind of stuff, but like, what is William Minerva's goal in all this? Because it couldn't just be I want to save these kids, whether it's for some grand uprising, right? And he's going to need their help because they're going to inspire other kids, or he has his own political thing going on. I'm very curious to get answers on that. Because I have questions. So, but beyond that, there was, obviously some very wholesome moments within this show. We got to see the kids finally kick back, although just for like a night, read some books, take a bath, play the piano. You got to see some of their personalities come out a little bit. Like the little kid, I can't remember his name, but he looks like Norman with bigger eyes. He's kind of like a little troublemaker. You get the other Norman kid, who's kind of bawling, and he's like, I don't know why. And that we see the talents of the kid who can play the piano. So I thought it was very wholesome in that moment. And although all my muscles were tightened and clenched the whole time because I was terrified that something was going to happen at any given moment, there was somewhat of a solace I took in seeing that, even if it's just for a short time. But I don't know if anybody else had any other remarks or anything in particular that they.
Well, I've also been thinking about like the whole them intercepting the call from the farm and Isabella and all them, because like that's got to be a lie, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
She can't. They like I feel like now, since what I'm sure they're calling the great child debacle of season 1, like I don't know. I find it hard pressed that like the demons would be like, Isabella, everybody makes mistakes. Just, make sure like you're making sure the gates are tighter. You got more locks, and I'll see you tomorrow for work. It's like they're like, no, you let an entire half a farm of kids escape. There's consequences, and so I don't know if like she's being kept like I don't know. I'm curious to see what the state of the farm is, because I would be hard pressed to think that like they're just like, yeah, everything's cool, happens. So I think they might be in it, because I think I don't know about like Isabella or maybe even the other mothers, but I think the demons know of William Minerva's existence and know about like his potential as far as like how resourceful he is and stuff. All that getting to, I wouldn't see it impossible to be like, yeah, no, we have like these calls going out that are fake call, like you intercepted the wrong call, and like that is going to make the kids think that it's okay to go back to the farm, and then they go back to the farm, and then they get jumped and brains get eaten and all that. But yeah, I don't know, because I'm really curious to see what is going on with the the farm situation.
For sure. Gavin, anything?
So I I've been thinking like weird brain cannon stuff for Mr. Minerva, and I guess if I had to make predictions, or not even predictions, more information that I am gathering in my mind that could be completely wrong, I think that he actually, not necessarily that the demons know of his existence, but I think that he is among the ranks in terms of someone who is integral in the farm creation and as well as the continued development or actual functionality of said farms. And the reasoning behind that is, one, the books, how they ended up in the homes themselves. So obviously my man didn't just sneak in there and place him in there. From day one, they were put there for some reason, which I feel like he had to be a part of in some way. Two, the base that they are in, something that I thought of was, it strangely reminded me of the actual home in which they escaped from with the mother in terms of just design and layout. Like the kitchen was the first thing that kind of rung a bell when I was like, this kind of reminds me of the one there. And it to me just had a very similar layout and structure to where I'm like, okay, this is a little weird. And something also that reinforced this thought was the secret door with the piano key, which we have also seen back in the home where they had the messages were formed when you pulled the candle. So all of these little things, like these little nuanced details that are very similar in relating to the plant that they came from, kind of cues me into that he is either one of the developers, one of the idea makers, or like creators, engineers of some sort that had a part in the process of creating these farms. And with that, planting these tests in there in terms of the books in which the kids find the Morse code and then eventually find this base, I feel like for him, although I don't know his intentions are, it's definitely selfish, and it has something to do with the fact that only the smartest kids pretty much ever would be able to reach this place by finding the clues that he knows that he puts and that only smart people would be able to find. No one will just be able to stumble on it. So whether he is harvesting these kids for more selfish reasons, because we know that they are being groomed up to be displayed at the harvest. So whether he thinks that secretly demons aren't worthy of these kids, and he is, because for whatever weird reason, he just like might have that, what is that called? That weird nature. I can't even think. It's from an old psychologist thing, but an ego. He might have that ego where he's better than everybody else, including demons. So the smartest kids belong to him in a sense, or whether he eats them in some weird turn of events, or he just feels like he has ownership of them. I don't know any of his intentions, but I do feel like he is plucking the smartest kids that physically exist, having them come here for said reasons, and they are to serve his desires. And I do think that he is very close to home in terms of the farm, in the whole political landscape. And yeah, I'm very curious in what role he actually plays in society that we know. And I feel like it might come sooner or later, because you don't have a telephone or a radio or all those monitors, like just by some weird change of events. Like he has to have links to get them. And I feel like it's all too close to home and relative in terms of how that place is laid out, unless it was an old abandoned from however long ago. To me, those like the dots just align in that nature. So I don't know how you guys feel about it, or if that would even make sense, but that is my thought in terms of his person.
So I could see William Minerva actually, like you said, being somebody who started the farms, or maybe he was even one of the original people that brokered the deal between demons and humans to to split off or whatever. And then
You have to be 1,000.
That's the other thing.
we don't know this nigga.
Okay.
Do you know how, like, I don't know.
He could be a demon.
Nigga got like a pen that's a computer.
Yeah.
Just saying. So he like, but I don't think he's like working with the demons in the sense that or rather that he's like, that he's also still an enemy in the sense that like, he's like, oh, the demons, I'm going to keep the kids away from them. But like for me, I actually do think, and I think this could support one of your questions, that he is grooming the kids because he used to be one of them. Like he was the first person that like quote had like a perfect brain, or like like had like an incredibly high intellect or whatever grade brain, and that he is now ashamed of like what these farms have become and what they're doing to these children. And so the books and stuff and all these riddles and clues and all these things are, like you said, a test, but they're a test to make sure that whatever kind of kids he groups together are capable of like, plunging into this fight and like signing up with him to overtake these demons. Because I do think that it's like, and that's where I think the stake for Minerva. Like, that's what his stake is in this. That's why he's helping them. That's why he's sticking his neck out so much, because he needs soldiers. He needs people that are willing to fight these demons, but are also capable of doing it. He can't just have any like random, because any random kid would not have gotten this far, right? Now, there's the whole, conflict, I guess you could throw in there with, I would guess that like most of the kids in our group that aren't Emma, Ray, and such probably would not have gotten this far on their own. So like I could see Minerva meeting all of them and being like, oh, you two, you're the good, okay, you two come with me, the rest of you, but like, you know what I mean? And then Emma, hits him with the protagonist nonsense. But because it's like, if he was trying to get the kids to if he was working with the demons, it's like a whole lot of trouble to lead them out of the farm, go like run around the world, and then come back. Like, just leave them on the farm. And if he wants them for himself, like, again, just like this specific plan that's going on, and granted, we don't know what the full plan is, and we haven't seen everything. But this feels like if it was like some selfish thing where he's trying to get them, this feels like a very like long, like I feel like he could have got them like the second they got out the farm, just been like, yeah, come into this house. It's like, personally.
Well, so a couple things. One, he's definitely not working with the demons, but two, the explanation of why there would be help etched inside said place where he's funneling the kids. I've like that. If it was a normal process or something to help these kids or join the fight in any way, unless he expects them to join, and if they don't, he doesn't let them go, and that would explain. I feel like there just needs to be an explanation for that room in the house, and like that is for me what kind of rings the bell of he's probably not the greatest person in the world. Not to mention, I feel like this show would also be the type of entity to prop up this person on a high pedestal just to, when you meet him, knock him down, similar to what we just met with Sungju or whatever his name is, and M, in terms of you think that they're good people off of intentions, and literally up until the moment that the kids left, you find out the hidden ulterior motives. I very much feel like that's just going to be Mr. Minerva and his character. From a surface level, it's going to seem amazing. He helped these kids, he did all these things, but underneath, once you peel back however many 100 layers, depending on how smart this guy is, there's going to be an underlying fault that is what's really like the basis of this whole scenario. So that is what I'm curious, and why he had to jump. Why is it so important that he needed to jump through hoops? Because as far as I'm concerned, he hasn't put his neck out for anybody yet, because he hasn't been shown or seen yet. Quite literally, he guided them to a place, but like even then, he hasn't put himself out there. He's been very cautious. He left a note. He made a phone call, and he's alive unless you don't know he's alive unless it's a pre-recorded thing. But it's like to leave a note and then have a phone call saying, I'm Mr. Minerva, and the note literally says, sorry, I couldn't be here. Like, there's too much ambiguity for it to be something normal and something sane in a sense. So that's what gets me
I could
curious.
see like the, Mr. Minerva is not going to be who we think he is as far as like this grandiose savior. And I do agree that like with this season, The Promised Neverland could do something really cool where it's like, it's doing this whole thing of like people aren't really who you think they are and all these. But I think that could even, if you push that envelope a little bit farther, maybe this was William Minerva's hideout and he was torturing demons in those rooms. Because demons don't have like different colored blood than the humans do from what we've seen. It all looks the same. So I could see like if there are demons, and again, we know that not all demons are like the ones that run the farms where they're just these human hungry, like there are in-betweens. Majuka and, to a lesser extent, Sunju are examples of that. So I could even see a thing of like they meet Mr. Minerva, and again, he's not this like all touted savior who's all about saving lives. Like again, they meet him and he's this very cutthroat. He's this very, like rough around the edges kind of disenfranchised guy. I mean, he's been, who knows how long he's been, at this, whatever he's doing, setting up and building up this empire or this rebellion or whatever. So I could see him being like, I don't know. I think it would be cool again, like in lieu of like a theme for the season. If it's like, yeah, you kind of came into this thinking that like demons are the bad guys and humans are the good guys. But it's like if you kind of like if you push that envelope a little bit and really work with like, well, it's not what this thing is, it's about what they are in the inside. Then it's like, well, no, you could have there's bad humans and good demons, and it's a lot more. It's not black and white. It's a lot more gray. Personally.
Because that thought crossed my mind, and that could be the play on if M does leave Sungju's side or whatever his name is, and eventually reunites with them. and they are with Mr. Minerva, that could also, I could see, be a tipping point if he has a very much hatred for demons and doesn't see them at all relatable to humans and sense of personality, to when he might try to go after her, and it's like that duality. I can see that possibly happening. Yeah, I wouldn't erase it. Like, anything could happen with the show, to be honest. Or we could just be completely off track and they just go down its own avenue, which is probably going to do. And it stresses me out, dog.
You're funny. All right. Anyway, I think we're going to end it there. I enjoyed our discussion and listening to your theories, bouncing back and forth. Hopefully you guys did too. If you did, make sure you guys are liking the video so we know that you liked it. If you're new here, make sure you guys are subscribing, hitting that notification bell so you don't miss any future videos. Again, make sure you guys are checking out AoA Reacts as well and subscribing to that channel so you can see our Promised Neverland reaction among the many other reactions that we have and the many more that we intend to post. Also, make sure you guys are sharing with your friends, because the more the merrier. It's not just us. The conversation goes to the community from here. This is just the 3 humble opinions here. That's it. So let us know what you think in the comments down below as well. Big shout out to our Patreon supporters, Acolyte of Anime. We have Stoic and Nathan. So thank you very much for your support. Big shout out. Much love to all the patrons there. Also, make sure you guys are checking out our AoA merch shop. The link is in the description down below, along with like all the other links. So make sure you guys are clicking like all of them, because I can guarantee you that every link is a way to support the show in some way, shape, or form. So if you want to support and you're like, I haven't clicked this link yet, even if you blindfold, just click it. I guarantee you it's going to support the show in some way, shape, or form. Promise. So definitely go check those out, but specifically our merch store, because we have 20% off all of our items in the merch store, and that deal is running until the end of January. So how you do that is when you are at checkout and it says, would you like to type in a promotional code? You say, yes, I would, and you type in AOA 2021 to celebrate this new year. Again, that's AOA 2021 for 20% off of your order. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you on the flip. Peace.
Peace.
Ninjas are samurais, blaze of the kunais. Find me in the leaf of the cloud, screaming out Bankai. We just some ghouls though, who like seeing parts fly.